A personal bodyguard is your close friend who keeps your innermost secrets, especially if you are the personal bodyguard of the President of America. Today, Jeremy Miller shared a shocking story with us in which Trump residually revealed who he really is. You can write your opinion on the situation in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy watching.
Jeremy Miller had been Donald Trump's personal bodyguard for over a decade. He was a towering figure, both in stature and presence, with a reputation for being unflappable and fiercely loyal. He prided himself on his ability to handle any situation with precision and efficiency, whether it was managing security details or dealing with the occasional overzealous fan. But there was one incident in his career that would later haunt him, a moment that started with harsh words but would ultimately lead to an unexpected act of redemption. It was a crisp autumn morning at Trump Tower. Jeremy was overseeing the final preparations for an important meeting. The atmosphere was tense. Everything had to be perfect. Among the staff bustling about was Maria Gonzalez, a housekeeper who had been working for Trump for a few years. Maria was in her late 30s, a quiet and hardworking woman who had immigrated to the U.S. from a small village in Guatemala. She had little formal education but took immense pride in her work, always striving to do her best. That morning, however, things went wrong. Maria was cleaning the conference room when she accidentally knocked over a carafe of coffee, spilling it across the polished mahogany table and onto a stack of important documents. The room fell silent as the dark liquid spread, staining the papers and dripping onto the floor. Maria froze, her heart sinking as she realized the gravity of her mistake. Donald Trump, who had been reviewing the documents, looked up sharply. His face darkened as he saw the mess. "What the hell is wrong with you, Maria?" he barked, his voice cutting through the silence. "Can't you do anything right? This is basic stuff. You're lucky you even have this job." Maria's face flushed with embarrassment. She stammered an apology, her hands trembling as she tried to clean up the mess. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Trump. It was an accident. I'll fix it, I promise." But Trump wasn't in the mood to listen. "Fix it? How? These documents are ruined. Do you even understand how important this meeting is? You need to do better. Maria, this isn't some village back home. You're in New York now. Act like it." The words hung in the air, heavy and unkind. Maria nodded silently, her eyes downcast, and quickly finished cleaning before hurrying out of the room. Jeremy, who had been standing nearby, watched the scene unfold. He had seen Trump lose his temper before, but this time, something about it didn't sit right with him. Later that evening, as Jeremy replayed the scene in his head, he felt a pang of guilt. He remembered the look on Maria's face, the way she had shrunk under Trump's criticism. He knew she was doing her best, and he also knew she didn't have the same opportunities he had growing up. Jeremy had always been tough, but he wasn't heartless. As he sat in his apartment that night, he couldn't shake the feeling that Trump had been too hard on her. The next day, Jeremy sought out Maria. He found her in the break room, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She looked up, startled, when he walked in. "Maria," he began, his voice softer now, "I owe you an apology. I saw what happened yesterday, and I should have stepped in. Trump was out of line. You didn't deserve that." Maria blinked, surprised by his sincerity. "It's okay," she said quietly. "I know I made a mistake." Jeremy shook his head. "No, it's not okay. He was too hard on you, and I've been thinking, you're smarter than you give yourself credit for. You deserve more than this." Maria looked confused. "What do you mean?" Jeremy took a deep breath. I want to help you. You've got potential, Maria. You just need a chance to prove it. What if I talk to Trump about paying for you to go to school, get an education? You could do anything you want." Maria's eyes widened. "School? But I don't even have a high school diploma." "Then we'll start there," Jeremy said firmly. "I'll talk to him. You just have to be willing to put in the work." Maria was speechless. She had never imagined someone like Jeremy, someone who had always seemed so tough and unapproachable, would offer her such an opportunity. Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. "I won't let you down." Jeremy knew convincing Trump wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to try. He had seen a side of Maria that others overlooked, and he believed in her potential. Little did he know, his act of kindness would set off a chain of events that would change both of their lives forever. Jeremy Miller knew that convincing Donald Trump to pay for Maria Gonzalez's education would be no small feat. Trump was a man who valued results, not sentimentality, and Jeremy had to approach the situation strategically. He waited for the right moment. a time when Trump was in a good mood and more likely to listen. That moment came a few days later. After a successful business meeting, Trump was in high spirits, leaning back in his chair in his office, a satisfied smile on his face. Jeremy knocked on the door and entered, holding a folder of documents. "Boss, got a minute?" Jeremy asked, his tone respectful but firm. Trump glanced up, still smiling. "Sure, Jeremy, what's on your mind?" Jeremy took a deep breath and stepped forward. "It's about Maria Gonzalez, the housekeeper. You remember the incident last week with the coffee spill?" Trump's smile faded slightly, and he waved a hand dismissively. Yeah, what about it? She screwed up. I told her to do better." Jeremy nodded. "I know, boss, but I've been thinking. Maria's a hard worker. She's been with us for years, and she's always done her best. The thing is, she never had the opportunities we did. No education, no real chances to prove herself. I think she's got potential, but she needs a leg up." Trump raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Go on." Jeremy opened the folder and placed a few papers on Trump's desk. "I did some research. Maria could get her GED, then go to community college, and from there, who knows, maybe even Harvard. But she needs someone to believe in her, someone to give her that first step." Trump leaned forward, scanning the documents. "And you're saying that someone should be me?" Jeremy nodded again. "Exactly. You've got the resources, and it would be a great story. The billionaire businessman who gave a hardworking immigrant a chance to succeed. It's good PR, and it's the right thing to do." Over time, Maria's confidence grew. She passed her GED with flying colors and moved on to community college, where she excelled in her studies. Her dream of attending Harvard, once unimaginable, began to feel within reach. As for Jeremy, he found a sense of purpose in helping Maria. It wasn't just about making up for his harsh words or Trump's outburst. It was about giving someone a chance to rise above their circumstances, to prove that with hard work and opportunity, anything was possible. But this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be challenging, and the stakes were high. Maria had a lot to prove, and Jeremy knew the world would be watching. Maria Gonzalez's journey from housekeeper to Harvard student was nothing short of extraordinary. After earning her GED and excelling in community college, she applied to Harvard University, a dream that once seemed impossible. When the acceptance letter arrived, Maria could hardly believe it. She had done it, against all odds. She had proven that with hard work, determination, and a little help, she could achieve greatness. Jeremy Miller was the first person she called. "I got in," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I'm going to Harvard." Jeremy, usually stoic and reserved, couldn't help but smile. "I knew you could do it, Maria. I'm proud of you." When Donald Trump found out, he was surprisingly pleased. "See, I told you she had potential," he said to Jeremy, as if he had been the one to believe in her all along. "This is going to make a great story. People love this kind of thing." And he was right. When the news broke that Trump had paid for his former housekeeper's Harvard tuition, it made headlines. The media painted it as a heartwarming tale of redemption and generosity, though Jeremy knew the truth was more complicated. Still, he was glad Maria was getting the recognition she deserved. Maria thrived at Harvard. She studied business administration, determined to use her education to help others like her, immigrants and low-income workers who just needed a chance to succeed. She often called Jeremy to update him on her progress, and he became something of a mentor to her, offering advice and encouragement whenever she needed it. Years later, Maria graduated from Harvard with honors. She stood on the stage, her cap and gown gleaming in the sunlight, and looked out at the crowd. There, sitting in the front row, was Jeremy. He gave her a small nod, his way of saying, "I told you so." After the ceremony, Maria found Jeremy and hugged him tightly. "Thank you," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You changed my life." Jeremy shook his head. "You changed your own life, Maria. I just gave you a push." Trump sat back, tapping his fingers on the desk. He was silent for a moment, considering the idea. Jeremy held his breath, hoping he'd made a compelling case. Finally, Trump smirked. "You know, Jeremy, you've got a point. It would make a great story, and if she screws it up, well, that's on her. But if she succeeds, it's a win-win. All right, I'm in. I'll cover her education, but she'd better not waste this opportunity." Jeremy couldn't hide his relief. "Thank you, boss. I'll let her know." Later that day, Jeremy found Maria in the break room. Just like before, She looked up nervously as he approached. "Jeremy, is everything okay?" He smiled, a rare sight for someone usually so stoic. "Everything's more than okay, Maria. I talked to Trump. He's agreed to pay for your education, starting with your GED, then community college, and who knows, maybe even Harvard someday." Maria's eyes widened, and her hands flew to her mouth. He's really going to do that? For me?" Jeremy nodded. "He is, but he expects you to work hard. This is your chance. Maria, don't waste it." Tears streamed down Maria's face as she stood up and hugged Jeremy tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much. I won't let you down. I promise." Jeremy patted her back awkwardly, not used to such displays of emotion. "You'd better not," he said with a small smile. "Now, let's get started. We've got a lot of work to do." And so, Maria's journey began. She enrolled in GED classes, studying late into the night after her shifts at Trump Tower. Jeremy checked in on her progress regularly, offering encouragement and advice. Trump, true to his word, covered the costs, though he rarely mentioned it unless someone brought it up in conversation. But Maria knew better. Without Jeremy's intervention, without his belief in her, she might still be cleaning floors at Trump Tower, her potential untapped and her dreams unfulfilled. She vowed to pay it forward, to help others the way Jeremy had helped her. As for Jeremy, he continued his work as Trump's bodyguard, but he was a changed man. The experience had softened him, taught him the value of compassion and second chances. He never forgot Maria's story, and it became a reminder to him that even in the most unlikely places, kindness could change lives. Donald Trump, for his part, rarely spoke of Maria after the initial media buzz died down, but every now and then, when someone brought up the story, he would smile and say, "Yeah, I saw her potential, I gave her a shot, and look what she did with it." And so, the story of Maria Gonzalez, Jeremy Miller, and Donald Trump became a tale of redemption, resilience, and the power of opportunity. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't always pretty, but it was real, and in the end, it was a story about how one act of kindness, no matter how small, could change everything.